Hello everybody, hope you're doing well today. So Shek Simech, happy Hanukkah. So, hi Avienda, hello to the chat. It's telling me that nobody's watching, but Avienda's in the chat, so Avienda, are you a ghost? That's terrifying. So yes, Shek Simech, happy Hanukkah. I thought that it would be nice to speak a little to my own heritage. There's a few Hanukkah fics. I got 0 volunteer fics this time around. I went to some people and I asked specifically for if I could read 2 of my favourite Hanukkah fics. I wasn't brave enough to keep just randomly chasing people, but there were 2 that I really wanted to get, and that's Operation Maccabee, which is a beautiful Captain Swan story, just heart healing and lovely, and the young Rabbi of Hillel of the University, which is a Reylo story, MissCoppelia. And both of the authors were kind enough to agree to allow me to read their stories, so I'm very excited about that. And it's probably going to be a short stream today because I do only have the 2 stories to read. I may well go back and read some of the ones that we read on Wednesday's stream, because interference meant that wasn't really a salvageable download, sadly. It was quite upsetting. With some really beautiful stories, and I really genuinely wanted to share them with you. So we may well, depending how much time we've got, we may well pick up some of those stories. At least one of those stories will be featured in our future podcast. At least I hope it will. So for those of you who might not be aware, this was never a long-term project. As you can probably tell, most of my range is back. My sustain's not quite there, and certainly by the end of a 2-hour session, the burr is there. There's still a little bit of, right at the back, still a little bit of vocal fry, which is not intentional, not wanted. So I'm hoping by the end of January we'll be able to ditch the stream, and then we'll be moving to a podcast interview style format where we'll be interviewing an author, reading excerpts of their work, and then it'll be something that people can pop on while they're doing other things and enjoy. Whereas the stream's a bit more intensive. I don't really want to do another this week in fandom, because finding out that Tross could have actually been even worse was just depressing, really. The fact that, I don't think JJ should be left alone with a Lego, let alone some of the major franchises in sci-fi history. Yeah. That was bloody depressing. Anyway, more cheerful things. This is Operation Maccabee by the girl in the band t-shirt, who we had a lovely chat, just the loveliest chat, on Tumblr. And she very kindly agreed to allow me to read this. Additional tags: holidays, Jewish holidays, Hanukkah, Christmas, winter, Captain Swan freeform, Captain Cobra freeform, holiday traditions, Christmas tree, menorah, latkes, Jewish food, fluff kisses, holiday fluff. Additional tags that are not here because they are not commonly tagged in this fandom. Past history of neglect, foster child. So, Killian, that's Captain Killian Jones, aka Captain Hook. Over here's Emma, the Swan Princess Emma Swan, telling Mary Margaret, that would be Swan White, about her favourite holiday memory. Emma takes a sip of the hot cocoa and cinnamon her mother made for her and smiles as she watches her boyfriend and her son going through the boxes of Christmas decorations in front of where she sat on the couch. Mary Margaret walks in her living room carrying baby Neil on one arm, her own hot cocoa in the other. David's at the station. He gave Emma the day off so she could join her mother and her family to help decorate the house. This is the way it was supposed to be. Mary Margaret puts Neil down in his playpen and joins Emma on the couch. This is what it would have been like every year. She pauses, but in the palace. Emma gives her mother a loving glance, not wanting her to feel guilty about putting her through the wardrobe, especially right before the holidays. Emma watches Killian and Henry starting to hang ornaments on the tree. Actually, one of my few good memories of one of my foster homes was a holiday celebration. Mary Margaret's head jerks over so she can lock eyes with her daughter. Really? Emma looks down as Mary Margaret smiles to herself, feeling a little bit relieved that Emma's life wasn't completely miserable because of what she and David did. My foster family, the one I took my last name from, they celebrated Hanukkah when I was there. She pauses, then speaks again. It was the only year I got presents. We had lots of food and celebrated with our whole extended family. There's a silence between the women as they watch Henry and Killian continuing their decorating. Henry puts on a Santa hat. Killian looks absolutely perplexed by the act. Henry laughs, and Killian turns to Emma and Mary Margaret. Swan, look at the silly hat your boy found. It's like Smee's hat, but more ridiculous. Emma turns to Mary Margaret, silently asking for permission to leave her to join the boys. Go, it's your first Christmas, go. Mary Margaret brings her mug up to her lips as she watches her daughter participating in the holiday traditions with her family. Henry notices the exchange between the women. Grandma, this is your house. Why don't you join us? Mary Margaret shakes her head. Thank you, Henry, but I'd rather watch you all. This is your first Christmas as a family. Enjoy it. Henry shrugs in response and turns back to his mom and her pirate, who shows Emma the furry white pom-pom at the top of his hat. Killian, it's a Santa hat. He raises an eyebrow. Santa, fat guy in a red suit gives every kid in the world presents on Christmas. White beard, kind of creepy. There's silence. You don't know who Santa Claus is? I'm afraid I'm not yet acquainted with this Santa. Killian, have you ever celebrated Christmas before? Any holiday? He shakes his head in response. Looks like it's the first Christmas for us both, Swan. I had one good Christmas before. Henry and I celebrated alone that year in New York. Henry nods, but that wasn't real. None of it was. Her green eyes grow sad. Killian gives her a kiss on the cheek. He can see her trying to hold back tears. Let's finish decorating. I want to be done before my dad gets home. He watches her grab some garland from the box and wraps it around the tree. She gives a star to Henry and he places it on the top. He smiles as he watches his family laugh and thinks of what Mary Margaret and Emma talked about. Emma needs some good holiday memories to replace the bad ones of foster care, and he's determined to give her the best holiday ever. Killian finds himself talking to Marco the next morning. He's left for Marco's after Emma left for the station, trying to get there without getting caught. He walks out of Marco's feeling relieved and confident. There's 1 week to Christmas and he's excited to do this for Emma. Henry helps Killian learn to delete his internet history on his talking phone. Since Emma showed him Google, he's taken advantage, looking up everything he could, especially about these winter holidays everyone's so excited about. He asks Henry for help making the holiday perfect for Emma, knowing it would have some good insight on his mother. Henry calls it Operation Maccabee. Emma wakes up on Christmas Eve to smell the food. She's wrapped tightly in Killian's arms and her eyelids flutter open. She rolls over to face him. Good morning. Emma notices he's already dressed. She wonders how he slipped out of bed without her noticing. Morning, Swan. He fingers the ends of her hair falling over her shoulders. Oh, it's that smell. It smells delicious. She closes her eyes and took a breath. She recognises the smell, but can't quite identify it. That, love, is a surprise. He bops her on the nose and wiggles his eyebrows. You hungry? Yeah. He gets up and offers her his hand, and she takes it, follows him downstairs. She's greeted by a table with 2 full plates and bowls. Killian, what? He shushes her so she can explain. Shh. Listen, I used the Google to look up Hanukkah after I overheard you talk with your mother. You said your happiest memory from our foster home was celebrating Hanukkah, so I wanted to have another Hanukkah for you. She rolls her eyes at his use of the Google, but immediately starts tearing up as she continues to listen. Apparently, the traditional food eaten on Hanukkah is potato pancakes, something called matzo ball soup, which is essentially chicken soup with a ball of bread in the middle. Emma laughs as she wipes her cheeks, finding her fingertips wet, and donuts with jam, jelly in the middle. Did you make all this? She looks at the plates. There are perfectly round latkes with applesauce and sour cream, so she can have her choice of dip. There's a pot of matzo ball soup on the stove and both bowls on the table, filled to the brim with the contents. On the far side of the plates, each has a pile of mini powdered jelly donuts. Aye. She stares at him in disbelief before pulling him in for a deep kiss. Thank you, Killian. Eat, Emma, there's more surprises for later. She eyes him at the mention of more, but sits anyway when he removes her chair for her. She goes right for a donut, sighing as she eats it. It's perfect. Before she can take another bite, his lips are on hers, his tongue tracing the line of her lips, swiping away the powdered sugar. He licks his lips as he pulls away smirking, and sits across the table from her. She's breathless from the kiss as he asks her if she likes the donuts. She nods, not able to form words at that moment. Popping the rest of the donut in her mouth, she looks at the other offerings on the table and decides to go for the soup next. He works on his latke, trying both the accompaniments as he watches her eat spoonful after spoonful of soup. It instantly warms her as it slips down her throat, comforting her from the inside out. Killian, this is delicious. She's halfway done with her bowl of soup before she speaks. I'm glad you enjoy it. He moves his bowl closer to himself and takes a spoonful. All that's left for Emma to try the latke, which she can't believe looks so perfect. She grabs one with her hands and takes a bite, wondering how she couldn't associate the smell earlier. Her food is mostly gone when she realises they've been sitting in silence. I can't believe you did all of this. How did you do all of this? I had some help from your boy. We called it Operation Maccabee. Killian scratches the back of his ear with his hand and almost blushes. She bites her lip as she thinks about the past week, remembering absolutely no signs of any plans to surprise her. You guys were sneaky. The smile fades, waiting for her to be upset for bringing up her past or sneaking around. She puts her hand over his. Thank you. Of course, Swan. He tangles his fingers with hers. Are you happy? I am. After Killian cleaned the dishes, she offered to help, but he insisted. He told her to close her eyes while he went to the closet to get something. So she sat on the couch with her eyes closed, extremely tempted to peek, but she respected his wishes. Okay, Swan, open your eyes. Killian was in front of her with a gift bag in his hand. Wrapping paper doesn't stand a chance against this. He holds up his hook. Sorry it isn't wrapped. Killian, you didn't have to get me anything. You already did so much. I just want to spend the holidays with you. Actually, I got you 8 gifts. The talking phone said Hanukkah was 8 nights. Emma's speechless. She stares at him, not believing any of it. You're right. You're staring. Sorry. It's just... no one's ever done something so sweet for me before. Killian's thumb wipes away a stray tear from her face, and she picks up the gift bag. Don't apologise. You deserve to be spoiled, Emma. I'll do anything for you. I love you, Gillian. She pulls him by the sides of his jacket, crashing her lips into his, earning a surprised noise from him before he parts his lips to kiss her back. One of her hands is still holding the gift bag, the other pulls at the hair in the nape of his neck. I love you too, he breathes out as they pull away. He sees her open her mouth to apologise again, so he interrupts her before she can. Open it. Her eyes drop to the bag in her lap, and she pushes the layer of tissue paper aside, pulls out her gift. I noticed we didn't have a menorah. I'd Marco make one especially for you. She studied it. It was gorgeous. The menorah was smooth, crafted to look like a swan. There were spaces for 9 candles to be placed, one for each night, plus one higher up. It's beautiful. She admires it for a moment longer than she expected, moving her glance to her boyfriend who's fidgeting on the couch next to her. She didn't even notice he sat down. We can use this to light the frost candles tonight. He breathes out a sigh of relief and she pretends not to notice. Oh, that sounds good, love. You know I'm not actually Jewish, right? She teases him and he scratches the spot behind his ear again. Well, you mentioned your happiest memory was celebrating Hanukkah. I want to give you... I love it. We can make new holiday memories now. He gives her a look to verify the Hanukkah gifts will be okay. She responds, I think we should start celebrating Hanukkah and Christmas. And we have the perfect menorah to celebrate with. She smiles as she wishes to put the menorah on the counter. There is one Christmas tradition I want to share with you, though. She gestures for him to walk over to her. He does, eyebrows raised in silent question. Do you know what this is? She points to the plant taped to the kitchen cabinet above them. No, I'm afraid I'm unfamiliar with this particular plant. It's called mistletoe. When you find yourself under one of those with someone, you have to kiss them. She watches a smirk grace his face. Well, if it's tradition, I suppose we must. He presses his hand to her back and pulls her closer, capturing her lips with his. She hums in satisfaction as they pull away. They keep their foreheads pressed together, not wanting to separate. Merry Christmas, Gillian. Happy Hanukkah, Swan. I love that story, despite the fact that if you're not Jewish, you shouldn't be celebrating Hanukkah. It's close practice religion. But I'm Reform, and I would not for a second resent any of the kids that I fostered if they wanted to light the candles. It's not like Diwali. It's not a celebration of the concept of light. It's the celebration of winning, of surviving. Like most Jewish festivals, it's a celebration of survival. Hard thoughts in these dark-ass times. But yes, so that was Operation Maccabee by the girl in the band t-shirt. So it's a Hanukkah story, but it's not a Hanukkah story. Yes, it is a Hanukkah story, but it's not a Jewish Hanukkah story. Yeah. Don't just do it because you think it's cool. But yeah, if I found out any of my foster kids were still lighting the candles like they did when they were with me, I'd be pretty chuffed actually. Not a rabbi. Not a rabbi. I should get a sign. Not a rabbi. My Hanukkah fell on me today, so it's like I was like, should I be doing this? I mean, I've had all sorts of nonsense just for being Jewish in public. So do I really want to be doing a Hanukkah themed episode? And then I was like, no, stuff it. We survived. Yes, I absolutely do want to do a Hanukkah themed episode. Then my Hanukkah fell on me while I was lighting the 7th candles tonight. So. I suppose I could tell the actual Hanukkah story, but I don't think anybody really needs me to do that. So, speaking of non-traditional Judaism and Reform Judaism, this is The Young Rabbi of Hillel of Thede University by MissCoppelia. This is a Reylo story, additional tags, Jewish character, Jewish holidays, Hanukkah, very belated Hanukkah anyway. It's not right now, but I'm sure it was when it was first published. At the end of December in 2019, so very belated. It's Rabbi Ray, conversion, tattoos, alternate universe, college, university, Professor Ben Solo, POV first person, conversion to Judaism, no pregnancy. There's no tags that should be here that aren't, that I've spotted. So Ben finds a flyer advertising the on-campus Hillel meetings under his office door. Usually he wouldn't attend club meetings, particularly religious club meetings. He's an atheist Jew after all. But something about the rabbi's sermons drew him in. Atheist Jews are absolutely a thing. Judaism is a culture as well as a religion. If your mum's a Jew, then you're a Jew. My eldest is absolutely an atheist Jew, and I think would probably have a conversation with anybody who tried to accuse him of any kind of orthodoxy, but still stuffed his face with sufganut. Donuts. Let's just say donuts. There's always too many students in the halls, too many bodies to get past, too much chaos. Don't they realise if all of them take the shortcut through this building, it's just going to slow them down as they rush to their next class? Oh well, not a whole lot to do about it. I've got time between classes and my office is in this building. It's a fucking matchbox. They don't give the good offices to professors who've only just started teaching. That'll be 5 or 10 years from now. But it's mine, and it's the only reprieve I have from the chaos outside, so I'll take it. Plus I hear the liberal arts professors have to share offices. Either way, I missed the summer weeks. It was so quiet. There's a bunch of flyers under the door, and when I unlock the door, I can see half of them are invitations to various barbecues at first glance. Math department barbecue, student association barbecue, tailgate parties for the first football game of the year. I hate sports and socialising and barbecues. No thanks. Still, I have to check through each sheet of paper because a few weeks ago the department head sent us a notice about a mandatory meeting to prevent sexual assault on campus, and I threw it out in accident. Can't let that happen again. There's a flyer that catches my eyes. It's got stars of David down the side in black and white. It's been ages since I've given two shits about doing anything remotely Jewish, aside from a few obligatory holidays with the family. But it's worth a look. At least then I can tell Mum I looked, if she asks. She'll probably bring it out tomorrow. Hillel of Thede University presents our first Shabbat dinner of the year. The Jew-ish question, thoughts on modern Jewish identity, presented by Rabbi Ray, followed by Shabbat dinner. Friday, 6 to 8 p.m, Nabry Hall. What the fuck? I scanned the paper once again, looking for some kind of clue as to why the fuck the Hillel of a large university would allow a rabbi to give a sermon that calls back to fucking Nazi propaganda. It makes me feel a little stick to my stomach. Hey, Kraken on the Ocean. It's going really well. Thank you so much for joining us. We are reading the Young Rabbi of Hillel of Thede University, which is by MissCoppelia. So if you hear me cussing and talking about Judaism, that's why. Thank you for joining us today. My mind should be on grading my next class, but this, a million things race through my brain. Is there rampant anti-Semitism on campus? Does anyone know I'm Jewish? Is this why this got stuck under my door? No, I'm overreacting. No one here really knows I'm Jewish. They can't guess from my last name It's just the paranoia my parents and my grandparents passed on talking. The schmuck who's giving the sermon must be the type that looks for ways to connect with the younger generation. Probably has a sad goatee and a guitar and likes to flirt with controversy. That's perfect for the college kids. Hux followed me into my office today. Arsehole hasn't even offered to hold my shit as I try to unlock the door. He's just standing there while I'm struggling to balance all these books and get the key in. Fuck him. There's a couple of flyers when I walk to the door. There always seems to be a couple right at the start of the week. Never as many as the first few weeks of the year, but at least a few. I see the Stars of David right as Hux steps on them. I wish him a swift and painful death. Might be a little thing, but I think he might be the single worst person I've ever met. He sits on my one chair without asking as I put my books down and reach for the flyers. Hillel of the University High Holiday Service, 5780. Rosh Hashanah, September 29th to October 1st. Day 1, sermon by Rabbi Joshua of Congregation of Bnei Israel, Learning Judaism, 10 a.m. Day 2, sermon by Rabbi Ray, Navigating Interfaith Relationships, 10 a.m. Yom Kippur, October 8th till 9th. Kol Nidra, 8 p.m. Morning services, 8 a.m. Yitzchak sermon by Rabbi Ray, Politics, Palestine and Judaism, Kindness or Survival, 10 a.m. Nila, 5 p.m. Breakfast, 8 p.m. All events held at Neighbourly Hall. Rabbi Ray's name catches my eye again, and this time the sermons actually look interesting. But it's high holidays. There's no fucking way I'm sitting in services long enough to catch a sermon. It would take hours. I've got midterms to start putting together this week. Besides, I didn't even take off from my classes those days. Hey, Solo, I don't have all day, Hux snaps. Are we going to talk about our research or not? The flyer ends up in the trash. The flyer's here again. Even if I'm not going to go, I start looking forward to seeing it. This time there's even more events. All the fall holidays, a sermon from Rabbi Ray for each one. Why do we have so many fall holidays anyway? Sukkot is harvesting a Jewish life through sustainable agriculture. That makes sense. The university has a massive agricultural science department here. Half the university's land is pastures and fields, about 30 minutes out of town. I wonder if the Hillel chapter is building a sukkah. They must be. Shemini Atzeret. I don't even remember that holiday. Must not have gone to synagogue for it as a kid. The rabbi's lecture is why love God when you could be agnostic? Which actually gets me thinking about what the rabbi's arguments could possibly be. When I'm actually thinking about sitting through a long drawn-out service, my curiosity vanishes. Finally, the Simchat Torah, which I think is pretty sure is the one where you unwind all the Torah scrolls and dance around. For that one, it's got finding meaning in the Torah when you can't read Hebrew. It doesn't really make sense, but I guess most kids forgot Hebrew after their bar bat mitzvah. I've forgotten more Hebrew since becoming an adult than I think I ever learned. There's no one to speak with. Maybe next month when there aren't so many holidays. Hillel of the University, November Shabbat dinner. Sex Positivity in Judaism presented by Rabbi Ray. November 7 p.m. Neighbourly Hall. I know this one is going to raise eyebrows and get butts in seats, but it's working. My butt is in the seat. And I'm here on a Friday night because I want to see this putz's sad goatee and Hawaiian shirt as he tries to relate to kids 2 or 3 decades younger than him about sex. I tried to get here a few minutes late, but my count on my people to not be on time. Everyone's just mingling, and I've been pulled into a conversation by one of my students, because of course one of my students is here tonight. I didn't know you were Jewish, Professor. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she's the kind of girl who's always in a full face of makeup, her hair perfect, dressed to the nines at 8 a.m. for general ed calculus class, one of their fellow students from sweatpants, clutching various cups full of caffeine. Yeah, kinda. It's so nice to see you here. Do you usually come to Hillel? She's just as bubbly and done up on a Friday night. And I wish I could get away because she's making me a little uncomfortable with the looks she's giving me. But it seems rude somehow, I don't know. I've been teaching long enough to know how to handle this with grace. There weren't any flashy girls in my classes when I was working on my PhD. What am I going to say? Sorry, kid, I'm only here to silently laugh at the rabbi. No, I just wanted to see it, I guess, is what I say instead. Oh, okay, do you want to sit with us, Professor Solo? She asks. I look over to where she's gesturing. Her friends seem to be cringing at my presence, and that makes me want to sit there even less. But the table's at the very back, so I could escape if the sermon is too terrible for words. Sure, I guess. I hope that sounds uninterested enough. I don't want her getting any weird ideas. Just as I reach for the chair, the door at the back bursts open. The young woman who comes barreling through it with an armful of shopping bags glances at me as she passes, with a slight frown on her face, like I'm some kind of intruder. By the time she reaches the front of the room, the other students have run up to help her, and she's all smiles. She looks like she's the chapter president, and she's just rushed from the store for challah and manishvitz. She's pretty, and I know I shouldn't be thinking like that about someone who could wind up in one of my classes, but there's something about her wispy brown hair, the curve of her neck where it meets the collar of her jacket, and her high cheekbones, that makes me want to get a better look at her face. She's distracting. I wish she wasn't a student. I guess dating in a college town's going to be tricky. Right now she's chopping up challah with the speed of 1,000 horses, whilst chattering away with the person who's pouring the grape juice. There's something pinned to her head that glints in the lighting, but I can't get a good look at it either. I guess the Shabbat service will start as soon as the rabbi shows up. It's only 20 minutes past the start time. I haven't seen anyone who looks like a rabbi in the room, but I take another look around just in case he's shown up too. When my head turns back to the front of the room, I see the woman standing, taking something else out of her bags. It doesn't hit me when I see the gold embroidery on the blue velvet. It hits me when I see the white fabric slipping out from under the pouch. And the fringes of that's it, uncurling. She's holding the tallit out, kissing the corners and saying the blessings as she wraps it around her head and her shoulders. Fuck. She's the rabbi, isn't she? She must be, because she's grabbing the mic and turning to the audience with a wonderfully sweet smile. People are clapping and cheering for her already. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. I see a few new faces in the audience, she says, looking right at me with the same easy, cheerful smile on her face. For those who don't know me, I'm Rabbi Ray. I work with Hillel as a volunteer rabbi for the Fiji chapter. Thank you for coming. Let's begin our service. Oh fuck, she really is the rabbi. Her singing voice is beautiful. I've never really paid attention to the singing and chanting during a Shabbat service before. Usually it's shit rabbis can't sing. That's what the cantors are for on Saturday mornings, but right now I'm watching the way her mouth makes each sound perfect. Like I've never heard this prayer, these words, these sounds before. I'm disappointed when the service ends. I want to hear more of that beautiful voice, not less. The only consolation is she's bringing the giant plate of challah from table to table while someone else passes out the grape juice. I gulp as I realise she's approaching mine. Hello, welcome. I stupidly look away for a moment so that I didn't look like I was staring. But now she's right next to me, smiling down at me as the kids take fistfuls of bread. Hi, I say back. She's gone with another flash of a smile to the next table. I get to hear her sing the prayers over the bread and the grape juice. Neither have ever tasted this sweet before. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this Shabbat, she says, into the mic once everyone's munching away. I know a few of you have been looking forward to this sermon after asking me to speak about the subject of sexuality in Judaism. There are a few hoots and hollers, but the crowd dies down quickly. I can feel my whole body turning red at the mention of the subject matter. This changes everything. I probably can't laugh at a woman trying to make sense of how religion polices sex. It's probably going to be a takedown. It's probably going to be serious. I have to say, Ray starts, clasping the mic as she begins to pace, I didn't know a lot about Judaism's opinions on sex before this. I had to research a lot, but you've probably seen one of those people who love to quote from the Torah about how men shouldn't sleep with men and thou shalt not commit adultery, etc. There's a few people in the audience groaning already, but she just smiles. Those are negatives, the things that make us feel like Judaism is not a sex-positive religion. But on the other hand, we have so many Jewish texts that tell us a man must frequently have sex with his wife not just to reproduce, and must arouse his wife and bring her to orgasm before he does. And there are so many laws about who can and cannot consent to sexual relations, a list that matches almost perfectly with modern laws about consent. So the question remains, can Judaism be sex positive when there are all these rules telling us who we can and can't sleep with? She stops, looking over the room as we contemplate her questions. Her gaze travels over the whole crowd, but when she looks over at me, at least I think she's looking at me, there's a hint of a smile on her lips. There are people who, whenever the Torah is quoted as opposing gay sex, like to quote the Torah and talk about how God also commanded that men take their female slaves as concubines or wives, how we've stopped such practices because they're wrong. Therein lies the key, I believe, to unlocking Jewish sexuality. If sex is all about reproduction in Judaism, be fruitful and multiply, as it were, she continues, returning to her pacing, why bother commanding men to have sex with their wives just because? Why bother giving their wives orgasms? Surely that means that in sex there is meant to be joy and love, and more than just a means to an end. Now she's starting to gesticulate, her hands weighing her questions and answers as if they were scales of justice. Lady Justice personified. So if we're willing to push away the practices of old times that feel wrong to us now, then why do we insist on keeping all the other rules about sex that also feel wrong? Shouldn't we focus instead, if not on reproduction and marriage, because maybe some of you guys aren't ready for that just yet, on bringing joy and love to other people through our sex lives? The audience is clapping and whistling, but I just wish they'd just shut the hell up and let her talk. She's smiling now, but quickly her hands move behind her back, and the room falls to a hush, like they already know what that means. Rabbi Ray has them well trained. I might have to try that during lectures. Traditional Judaism may tell you that no, you should not, because that kind of sexuality is an abomination. Maybe they're right, maybe we're not following God's way. There's no way for us to truly know after the destruction of the temple. All we have are our hearts and minds telling us what we think is right. We follow this instinct in every other aspect of our lives, and Judaism encourages us to do so. So why not in sex too? Holy shit, where the fuck has this kind of thinking been all my life? Is this really Judaism? I honestly can't believe they let rabbis like her get ordained. This would never fly at my uncle's synagogue. He wouldn't let it. Judaism, above all else, values life. The room is eerily quiet as the rabbi begins her conclusion. If I wasn't hanging on every word, I'd want to look around at the fate. Sorry. If I wasn't hanging on her every word, I'd want to look around at the faces of the students here to see if they're as moved as I am, but there's no way I want to miss a single thing she says. If life is so important, then we must find the best ways to live it. And having a meaningful sex life, whatever kind of sex life suits you, is just one way to do that. The room explodes into applause at that. You can just barely hear her say Shabbat Shalom, everyone, go eat, over the din. Multiple students are rushing her, giving her hugs. A few of them are in tears, and she soothes them with gentle touches and smiles. Words just for them. I don't really want to stay for dinner, but I'm still processing the weight of her sermon, the freedom it gives, when she's suddenly in front of me. Hi, you're new here, right? She asks with a smile and an outstretched hand. Grad student? I take her hand automatically, but it takes my brain a second to concentrate on more than all of the colours in her hazel eyes. No, I'm professor, math department, my first year teaching here. Oh wow, you seem so young for a professor. Her smile grows even wider as we shake hands a little too long. I can't help it, my hand doesn't want to let hers go. My name is Ray Johnson, I'm a volunteer rabbi with Hillel. Ben Solo, nice to meet you, Rabbi, wonderful speech. Oh gosh, I'm a little embarrassed that's the speech you had to hear. Her cheeks are slightly flushed as we finally drop each other's hands. Don't be, it was very moving. I wish I'd had that sort of thing growing up at my shul. I don't know how my voice got so soft, whispering like it's some secret thing that only her ears can hear. Thank you. With a tiny smile, Ray looks down at her feet for a moment. I can't tell what she's thinking, but I get a feeling like she's more grateful for the compliment than she lets on. My heart breaks at the thought of someone not telling her that she's amazing. Seriously, why did you choose to attend tonight? Like a lightning bolt, a laugh breaks from her. It startles me. I hadn't expected any real adults to hear it. The words aren't coming very quickly, so I laughed to cover my nervousness. Honestly, I didn't want to attend a holiday service. I'm not very religious. Ray just shrugs as she walks over to the food line. You're in good company here. Sometimes it's more about community than religion. These kids just want to have fun and be Jewish. I wasn't going to stay for dinner, but it seems rude not to now. She hands me a plate and smiles. No judgments here. That makes me laugh. None? Are you sure this is a Jewish organization? Well, none from me at least. I can't vouch from the students. She says it with a giggle. Fuck my heart. We load up our plates with baked ziti and salad, and I follow Ray towards the tables. She sits at mine, which gets the students all excited. You're sitting with us, Rabbi? Ray gives them a smile. If you'll have me. Of course they want her here. How could they not? Immediately she gets dragged into a discussion on her sermon, how it relates to their personal lives, including some very detailed descriptions of people they've been hooking up with. But Ray handles them all with grace. She knows all their names too. The girl in my class is apparently Mackenzie. I'll remember that in case I have to use it. I don't even mind not getting to talk to her. It's just as wonderful seeing her so passionate about each and every person who comes before her. There's tea and some desserts on the food tables now. So I grab some for the both of us, because I can see Ray being able to escape. I can't see Ray being able to escape from the discussion long enough to get something, and her voice sounds a little harsher than when she sat down. When I set the cup of tea down next to her, she pulls herself away for a second to look at me. Her eyes flit up, and I feel my breath catch in my throat as her lips curl into a little smile. I brought some cake too. I hope she can't hear my ears turning red. Thank you, Professor Solo. I want to tell her just Ben is fine, but the kids here, fucking kids. I just nod and sit down again and stuff my mouth with a slice of lemon poppy seed pound cake. Ray takes a sip of her tea and exhales with a happy sigh. So tell me, Professor, would you come to Hillel again? Yes, for you, Rabbi. No, that would be creepy. She's looking at me expectantly, and all I can think to tell her is that I really like her for reasons I can't think of, and that I'm not looking to become more religious, and I'm mostly an atheist, but scientifically it doesn't make sense to rule out God's existence without proof, so mostly I don't think about it. It's a student organization. I'm sure the students don't want an old fart like me hanging around. Ray raises an eyebrow at me, and I regret the words immediately. We don't mind, Professor Solo, Mackenzie chirps from across the table, followed by whispers of teacher's pet and cringe, and I can't help but feel a bit bad for her as her face turns red. Meanwhile, Ray's smile has turned a bit colder. I disagree. I think it's important for the students to see people they admire involved in the Jewish community. I can't help but laugh at that. I doubt my students admire me. You should see my rate feed page. I haven't even taught here for a full quarter yet, and I have 2 stars. No one goes there to write positive reviews, Professor Solo. It's not your fault. Mackenzie again. Well, girl, tone it down, one of her friends retorts. You're already getting an A in his class, right? Ray sighs. Guys, please remember to be kind to one another. My chest feels tight. Nothing feels quite right. I can't think of anything that will ease this tension, but the words keep spilling out of my mouth nonetheless. It's all right. I know my lectures are boring. Nobody wants to be there except the math majors. Ray shoots me a reproachful look, and I've just stuck my foot in my mouth further. Ben, she begins, placing her hand on my forearm. It's everything I want, yet it's doing nothing to help the situation. Even if what you think about your classes are true, you get to see another side of you here. It's different. I'm not sure I want to be so involved. God fucking damn my stupid mouth. All of the concern raised from Ray's face and is replaced with only sadness and hurt. Someone at the table is whispering, "Oh no." I don't even want to look at the students. Fuck. This is exactly why I didn't want to get involved with student organisations. The drama, the mocking, no thank you. I don't need to be close to them just to teach them. Well, I don't want to pressure you at all, Ray says as she gets up from the table. Her sadness has been replaced with cold politeness again. It's lovely to meet you, Professor Solo. Hope to see you again sometime. Oh shit, she mad, another student says, also thinking he's whispering far softer than he actually is. The second her back is turned, I leave as well. The guilt is eating at me. I wish I knew where Ray worked. She's not listed as a member of clergy at any of the local synagogues. I'm not about to crash sisterhood meetings just to see if she shows up. Hillel only has events once a month and I'm not a fucking stalker. I've been making the homework harder in my classes and my research with Hux with more enthusiasm just to distract myself. It only works for so long. I have to eat, I have to sleep. I have far too many moments when my mind is undistracted enough to think about her. I know I've blown it. It's not that I don't want to be involved, but why go to Hillel when I don't care about anything or anyone there but her? I'm not religious, I don't believe in God, really. Why would I go? It's for the students. It's not for someone like me. Ray is there for the students too, not for someone like me who's accidentally shown up and fallen in love at first sight. She'd never fall for someone like me. Someone who won't be involved in Jewish life with her. It wouldn't make sense for her to date someone like that. But I wish I could at least apologise. The flyer's waiting for me when I get back from the Thanksgiving holiday. Uncle Luke, fuck him, noticed my mood, and everyone spent the whole weekend trying to make me spill the details. There wasn't anything to tell them, but that seemed to only make them try harder. So honestly, it's not that I hate them. I just hate that. I step over the papers littering the floor and put my things on my desk before I bother to pick them up. Hillel of Theed University proudly presents our 2019 Hanukkah Bash. One last hurrah before finals, December 13th, 6 p.m, Nabry Hall. Shabbat Lak Kadredel, Sivaganyo, and more. I should go. I should apologise. I should explain. Does she even want my pathetic excuses? I almost don't notice that there's no sermon listed on the flyer. This time I'm 30 minutes late. The Shabbat service has already started. I stay at the back of the hallway, watching as she sings the prayers. Once her back is turned, I slip into an empty chair at one of the back tables, earning me a few looks from the students there. Ray doesn't notice me until she passes out the challah. Her mouth falls open ever so slightly as her eyes meet, but then she's all smiles again. "Professor Solo, you're back," she says, sounding happier than I expected. "Shabbat Shalom." "Shabbat Shalom," I repeat back. And all over again, I can't stop from falling for her God. This is bad. Ray really doesn't need someone like me hanging around her. My thoughts are interrupted by cheers as she walks in front of the mic. Instead of a sermon tonight, I thought we'd do something a little different. So please welcome your officers as we perform a Hanukkah spiel. I can't help but smile as Ray narrates the story of Hanukkah and a small group of inept college students pretend like they know how to act. It reminds me of the goofy Purim spiels we'd put on in Hebrew school as a kid. I'm sure it's just as bad whilst pretending to be Mordecai or Haman. This kind of thing has its own charm. Maybe it's just the enthusiasm everyone puts into it. Even as the narrator, Ray is just as overdramatic and silly as the role allows. The audience loves it just as much. The little play ends with thunderous applause and cheers, but in typical college fashion, the excitement quickly shifts to the piles of latkes and jelly donuts waiting to be devoured. Maybe I should leave, I think, as I watch Ray hug and talk to a few people. She's clearly fine. She's having a good night. I shouldn't ruin it for her. What happened to not being so involved? Her voice is a little loud, and I spin around and see her trying to cross the distance between us. She doesn't care who cares. I came to apologise for last time. Ray smiles, as beautiful and warm and welcoming as ever. Unnecessary apology accepted. Do you like Hanukkah? I can't help but frown at that, not just at the swiftness of her forgiveness, but a question. Who doesn't like Hanukkah? It's literally the least annoying holiday. No long synagogue service because it's not in the Torah. It's just songs and candles and weird little traditions. Ray shrugs, her eyes turning back to the students. Plenty of people. I suppose some don't like how it's becoming the Jewish version of Christmas. That's bullshit. We've got our own traditions. Adding presents and decorations doesn't make it Christmas. You're so right. We don't say anything for a while. Just watch the students work through the food line, start scarfing obscene amounts of potato, sour cream and applesauce. You're staying for dinner, right? To eat with me? You're sure? I'm honestly surprised she wants me around any longer, but I suppose it's in her job description to be welcoming. So I can't really be hurt, and she throws me a look that says, of course I'm sure, you big dumbass, and heads towards the food. Our fingers brush when she hands me a spoon for the sour cream. There's a little flush to her cheeks when I see her tuck her head down to concentrate on getting tomato from the salad bowl. But it has to be my imagination. It really has to be. She has a pretty rosy complexion, all over, light tan. I'm definitely just imagining things. She finds a table with only a few students, and across the room I see Mackenzie's shoulders sag. It's for the best. The poor kid won't get teased this time. Ray and I are eating in relative silence anyway. A few of the kids compliment her on her Hanukkah spiel. One of the officers comes up and whispers a question in her ear. She stands, abandoning her plate, and presses her hand to my forearm. Forearm? She stands, abandoning her plate, and presses a hand to my forearm. I have to deal with something. Please stay. I nod, and she smiles at me, squeezes my arm, and is off another second. I don't bother to look where she's gone. It doesn't matter. She didn't need to ask. She could have demanded I stay, and I would have done so happily. I take another bite of luck with sour cream, the milkiness filling my mouth as the salty crunch of potato follows. I feel overwhelmed. Why do I feel so disconnected from Judaism? Is it the structure of organised religion? It is a religion that demands a lot. There are so many rules about how to eat, how to dress, how to pray. Never made sense to me why it was all necessary. Wasn't it better that you prayed at all? Wasn't it more important to be good? These kinds of questions and a million more press on my mind as I eat. At least I think I eat. I don't taste anything, really, but eventually I do feel a hand on my shoulder, and I turn to look up at its owner. It's Ray, and suddenly the world comes flooding back. There's a few students wiping down tables, folding up the chairs, calling out goodbyes to their friends. Sorry that took so long. The kitchen was an absolute disaster zone. No problem, I say as she flops into her seat and unceremoniously stuffs a latke in her mouth with her fingers. She gives a little groan as she does. So fucking good. I wish I could make them like this. I tried my hardest not to flush at the sound. It's a little too much for me. No woman wants a man thinking about her making those kinds of sounds when they aren't even dating. Never met a rabbi who grosses before. Ray raises her eyebrows as she wraps her lips around her greasy fingers. Oh? Yeah, you're very different from the rabbis I've known before. She grins like the Cheshire Cat at that, switching out the first finger for another and another. Good. I hope that means I'm not boring. Definitely not. What are you doing after this? She asks, picking up another latke, as if she wasn't casually asking leading questions. My heart is pounding at the possibilities of her question, while my head is screaming at me to not read too much into it. Nothing. I grabbed her plate and stood. Good. Then you can stay and talk to me some more while I clean up. I stood up as well. Can I help? This time her grin isn't as big as before, but she looks pleased. I knew I liked you. Can you help me break down the tables and chairs? I nod and she orders some of the kids to clean the kitchen. We start folding chairs and stacking them onto the storage carts. Doing anything exciting over the break? She asks as she bends low to fold the chairs. Not really, just first night of Hanukkah with my parents. I'll enjoy the quiet on campus. Ray hums. I'm not sure why, it sounds almost sad. A bit wistful, for sure. What about you? Nothing special, just work. Just work? Once just work for a rabbi. Do you work at any of the local synagogues? She shakes her head sadly. I work for the cemetery. I can help organise funerals for a few faiths and lead the Jewish ones if people need a rabbi. I grab a few of the chairs she's folded. That sounds pretty depressing. Ray shakes her head as she follows me to the cart. It's part of life, and I like being able to help people. But you're such a talented speaker. I don't understand why one of the congregations hasn't snatched you up. The chairs crash into each other no matter how gently I place them on the rack. When I turn back, Ray isn't looking at me, but at some nebulous point somewhere across the room, she looks like she's barely holding on in distaste. Probably has something to do with being a convert. I can feel the rage boil in me. Is that why she's stuck working some depressing job? Sure, she probably does it well, but she shouldn't be someone's rabbinical intern at least? One of the larger congregation's youth leader? Something. That's fucking bullshit. You deserve a place in the community. When she looks back at him, my tears are starting to fill her eyes. It's fine. I'm used to it. Her deflections does nothing to ease my anger. No, it's not fine. I'm sorry, Rabbi, but you're telling me that you converted. You chose to join this crazy-ass religion and to do all the things it asks of you. And also to become a fucking rabbi, but they can't treat you with the respect you deserve. It's so fucked up. Why the fuck do people do that? The tears have spilled down Ray's cheeks, and I feel terrible for starting this whole conversation. She looks at me for a moment before a laugh escapes the back of her throat. You're sweet. Carefully, she takes her fingers and wipes under her eyes. Probably has a little makeup on, though her eyes are pretty enough on their own. I'll be fine, really I will. That's why I like volunteering with Hillel. It's like having my own little congregation. I didn't mean to make you cry. I'm sorry. Ray shakes her head. Don't worry about it, Professor Solo. I know you mean well. I can't help but frown. Please, call me Ben. You're not one of my students. Most of the tears are gone now, but her eyes are still bright from the wetness. Still, she smiles easily. Ben. Just hearing her say my name makes my heart leap too fast in my chest. We finish the chairs and tables in silence. By then the students have finished the kitchen cleaning. So Ray sends them home and breaks out the vacuum. I try to convince her to let me do it, but she won't give in. You can drive me home instead. You walked? I know my surprise is probably uncontained on my face. I'm experimenting with bits and pieces of being Shama Shabbos. Ray tells me. Just to see what I like best. How's that going? I ask as she flips on the vacuum. She looks down at it and scowls. I guess not very well. She lets me take the vacuum after that and laughs at me as I run around the room with it. Listen, I like to keep clean, but vacuuming is the most boring task if you don't do it fast. So I developed this weird method to push a vacuum like a cart when I was 10, and I started getting the really boring chores. It works well enough. I'll still drive you home, I tell her as we put the machine away. She doesn't live far, just 10 blocks away in a little duplex bungalow. It probably looks a lot more charming in the daytime. It takes no time at all to get there. I turn my head towards her as my car pulls to the stop in front. She doesn't take off her seatbelt yet, just looks at the window of her own place. Everything okay? Ray nods, but goes quiet for another moment before turning back to me. She's not really looking at me, she's looking at my hands for some reason. I'm really glad you came back to Hillel tonight. I wanted to see you, she says softly. I can tell I'm flushing. I can feel the heat on my skin. Sorry about last month, Rabbi. I was an ass. Ben, she sounds a little upset. Probably wasn't what she was talking about. Fuck. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I just want too much from her with her. It's not good. There's no way she wants the same things. I don't want you to call me that. Her hand is on mine suddenly. Our fingertips are just barely touching because she's shaking a little. When I look up at her, it seems like she might burst all at once. Call me Ray, she tells me. Her voice is so soft, so full of emotion. Please. Okay, Ray. At the sound of her name, her eyes drop lower, and I'm not quite sure what could possibly be my chin, so I don't notice her moving. I don't notice until she's so close. And then she's pressing her lips to mine before I can even react or move away. But oh God, I don't want to move away now. She's kissing me. I didn't imagine that part right. Ray's really kissing me. I didn't just accidentally kiss her and rewrite my memory. No, it can't just be my imagination because her hands are on my cheeks. And she pulls back a little and they're holding me in place while she looks up at me for permission to kiss me again. Ray. Comes out as a groan because I really truly don't know how to speak at this moment. I'm not sure how I'm remembering to breathe. She dips back in for another kiss, and this time I catch the taste of the latkes we were eating on her lips. My hands remember they exist. One of them reaches across the console to pull at her waist to bring her just a little closer. She presses her lips against mine harder as she shifts closer. My other hand is just at her wrist, my thumb stroking the back of her palm. Come inside? She asks when we pull apart again. Her lips look so pretty in the slight dark, the way they flush and relax from being kissed. I wish I could find the words to tell Ray that she doesn't need to ask. She could tell me her every desire and I would do it willingly. Each command would feel like a mitzvah coming from her lips. So I nod and we exit the car, finding each other's hand quickly, as if to be apart for too long would hurt. She hurries to find her keys and unlock the door. It's a small place, not the kind of place I'd rent myself. I'm too big and gangly for tiny places. But God, how I want to make myself fit in here so I never have to leave her side. Ray takes me into the little room that's both her kitchen and dining room and living room, and it's full of little things, pretty things. I wonder why she wants to hold on to so many little things. Ray's the one who pushes me toward the couch, bidding me to sit while she drops her purse on the table. That means letting go of our hands, which is the only hard part of obeying this particular command. But it's not for very long, because as soon as she's deposited her things, she's straddling my lap and kissing me again. This time her hands are in my hair, her tongue finds its way into my mouth, her teeth nip at me every so often. This time I can hold her properly, press her body against mine. It feels so right. I wonder why I've been fighting this past month. That's why it hurts so much when my senses return and I realise why I felt so guilty every time I've imagined something more with Ray. My heart seizes upon itself, trying to fight all the instincts to love her with cruel logic. I push her back as gently as I can, feeling myself beginning to shake as the words come up in my throat. Ray, you shouldn't get involved with someone like me. I perch in my arms. She frowns. Someone like you? What's wrong with someone like you? I don't really believe in God, I tell her, gulping down all my fears, letting them sit heavy in my stomach. And obviously you're looking for someone Jewish. You're Jewish, she says questioningly as she squeezes my shoulders. I don't believe in God, though, and you do, and you're a rabbi, and how would that work? An atheist and a rabbi together. I'd only hold you back. I can see her mind working, ready to snap back at me to tell me I'm wrong. Her lip trembles for a moment. I don't care. I don't care what the hell you believe in or don't believe in, she says sharply. That doesn't matter. But it does with your job. It's not going to help you. I don't care about that, Ray snaps. The anger in her voice steals my breath away. This is What's the word? Beshel. That's how I feel about you, Ben. It takes me a moment to remember it. My uncle never used it much. But once it's there, it's like it all suddenly makes sense. Destined. Preordained. It's stupid and religious, and yet exactly how I've been feeling too. Ben, she pleads, and I hear the hint of tears in her voice. I'm not some perfect convert. Just because I decided to become a rabbi doesn't mean I have to live a certain way or have a bunch of other Jews tell me what to do with my life. She wriggles out of my grasp, and for a moment I think to pull her back. The look in her eyes tells me not to. Without breaking eye contact, she peels off her blue jacket. There's a long-sleeved top underneath, and she reaches for that too. Wait, no. Her top is off her head a moment later, exposing her bra and her skin and dozens of tattoos. There are so many. Black and white and colourful, covering her chest and her arms and her stomach. There were flowers and faces and words. A few creatures wrap around her sides too. They stop at her elbows and the lines of her tan where her blouses must lay most days. She covers them up, the skin pale around the ink. I converted because I never felt like I fit in anywhere until I learned about Judaism, Ray tells me. Before that, I did this to myself. I got all of these tattoos so I wouldn't lose the things important to me. I was alone, always so alone. A heaving sigh lifts her torso up and down with a shaky breath. I'll never be a perfect Jew no matter what I do, not even if I manage to save enough money to have all of these removed. I want to ask her the story behind each one. I want to kiss each one. Ben, I don't care if you're not the perfect person for a rabbi. I'm the weirdest rabbi I've ever met. All I want is you. Ray wants me. That much is clear now, even though she shouldn't, but she does. Who else do we need to ask for permission? God? I've never been so sure that God would be okay with something in my life. So who am I to resist her when my own heart is singing too? My hands reach for hers, pulling her back toward me, wrapping her around her waist to bring my head to her chest. Don't get them removed. Ben? Her hands trace my shoulders and run up my neck and rest in my hair, and it feels good. It feels right. I pull her closer because if she's giving me permission to be with her, then I can't ever let go. If they're important to you, then don't let anyone tell you to get rid of them. I say, even though my face is pressed against her skin. They're beautiful. Her hands move to my face, cradling it, tilting it upwards so she can see me. There's tears in her eyes along with fear and a cautious hope. Does that mean you... Yes. I bring my hands up so I can wipe those tears away. They don't belong there anymore. You have me. I promise. I was just scared. Scared it was too good to be true. Her face breaks out in that easy smile, a watery laugh gracing her lips. I don't realise I'm smiling too, till her thumbs trace over my cheeks as she bends for another kiss. To hold her, to let my heart sing praise to the heavens for bringing us together. If there's any prayer I'm inclined to utter, it's that one. The next morning, when we wake, Ray is almost radiant. Her skin makes her smile glow. Do you need to go to services? I ask. I don't want to interfere with her attempts to being shumashubos. I'd rather stay home, she says with a little grin as she leans in for a chase kiss. What are you doing next Friday night? Nothing much. Packing for a short trip up to my parents for Hanukkah. Her eyes scan my face and she bites her lip. Would you say no to a Shabbat dinner with some of my friends? It's informal, they're not Jewish. Yeah, I say quickly, sensing anxiety. I'd love to. Ray smiles again and buries her face in my shoulder. I squeeze her just because I've learned since last night that she giggles when I do. Do you want to go with me for the first night of Hanukkah? I can ask my mom. I know she'd be very excited to have you. Yes, she breathes. Absolutely. Her laughter is high and giddy as I kiss her cheeks and then her mouth, and we cling to each other and all feels right in the world. Beshia. Oh, that was a bit lovely, wasn't it? So that was the young Rabbi of Hillel of Theed University by MissCoppelia, and it's just lovely. The prohibition against ink is such an odd thing. I have a replacement hip and some pins and bolts and things from a car crash, which mean that I wouldn't be the ceramic in my knee. They have to take it out and stuff, so that my body has to go. I'm not going to be buried in a Jewish cemetery. But I still refused to get ink for years because of the prohibition against tattoos, and yeah, all the deep and weirdness. It's an incredible story, and all of MissCoppelia's stuff. It just my favourite MissCoppelia stuff is the Purim stuff, which is just dirty and fun, and I would just everything, quite frankly. If you follow the link and to MissCoppelia's work, and just read all of it because it's amazing. But yeah, the Purim story is spectacular. It will absolutely blow your mind. The first story we read was Operation Maccabee, which is here. And yeah, I'll put those in the notes for the episode as well when we close off. So from the stories that we kind of missed out on, we had Ray has a crush, a toast to what if, the force of our bond, and weekend getaway. Excuse me, apologies. I don't. So the force of our bond, I believe we'll be doing a longer excerpt of when we do the podcast. Is that right, Avienda? The other two are CS stories. I won't go back in and read one of those. One of the ones from Wednesday's stream, because two of them are CS stories. One of them is Force of Our Bond, which we'll be doing on the podcast. And I think Ray Has a Crush, which is the short, sweet one that we did right at the beginning, was actually mostly legible, wasn't it? That was the one that wasn't too bad. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna. It's a bit early. It's about 45 minutes early, but I think I'm gonna call it for this evening, I'm afraid. So thank you to our lurkers. I can see that we have other people watching, but who are not logged in. Thank you so much, lurkers. Thank you, Avienda, for being the queen of the chat, as always. For all my talk of feeling a bit better, I'm having a bit of a bad day, actually. So thank you very much for coming along this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it. Yeah, I know. It's only an hour and 15 when we've just gone down to 2 hours from 3. But I am really genuinely feeling it, and I do have services tomorrow I'm supposed to be seeing. So have a bright and blessed evening, my lovely